Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got banished by his family and became ruler of the new world? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Minato muttered a curse for not suspecting Orochimaru replacing the Mizukage, and he was now on the roof with Orochimaru, holding Kushina at the point of a kunai as his two guards became four and created a powerful barrier that held back the Anbu unit and protected them from Minato and Kushina. I must admit that this went far smoother than I thought. Orochimaru chuckled as he pushed Kushina to Minato and stood there grinning. It won't go as smoothly as you think. Minato remarked as he pointed to the toads dealing with his snake summons. Orochimaru glanced and frowned before focusing entirely on Minato and his wife. It doesn't matter if Jiraiya manages to stop them, there is no one that can save you, especially since you can't Hiraishin out of this barrier. Orochimaru replied as he placed his hands on the ground and 3 coffins rose up, marked 1, 2, and 3, now let's see how you fare against your predecessors. Without a word the 3 coffins opened, revealing the bodies of the Shaddai, Nidame and Sandaime Hokages. As they stepped out the first 2 Hokages simply dissipated and Orochimaru blinked at this in shock. Looks like it didn't go quite as well as you thought. Kushina chuckled, one Ito Tensei against the 2 of us is simple enough. Orochimaru mentally paniced at this, not knowing what had gone wrong with the ones he had put Dosu and Kin in. Shaking away those thoughts he looked at his former sensei and saw that he was looking at Minato with sadness. I'm sorry Minato, it looks like I will have to fight against you today. Tobi apologized. It's alright Tobi. Minato nodded, I'll be sure to make this quick. It won't matter if you do. The village is doomed. Orochimaru remarked, besides you couldn't even keep your family together, what chance do you have of keeping this village safe? Shut your mouth. Kushina shouted. What is he talking about? Tobi asked as he looked at Minato and Kushina and saw the pain and anguish there. Oh, this is amusing. The legendary Yadaime Hokage neglected his son in favor of his Jinchuruki daughter. Orochimaru laughed, the boy ran away after stealing their most precious items. A boy after my own heart. Is this true? Tobi asked as he looked intently at the 2 and saw the guilt. Why Minato, why? I made a mistake. Minato sighed, I have searched for him for the last 10 years, but I can't find him. Because he went where you could not follow. Orochimaru laughed, and he is hellbent on getting revenge. You lie. Kushina shouted. Do I? I have seen the boy, and I must admit that he has become a force to be reckoned with. Orochimaru explained, he's a powerful shinobi now, one that would have turned the tides of this invasion in your favor if you had been smart enough to pay attention to him. Minato. Tobi began. I know. Minato stated as he looked at Orochimaru, where is he? Last time I saw him was in AIM. Orochimaru replied, and he had such eyes filled with hate and anger that I couldn't resist helping him. And who knows, he might make for a promising vessel one day. So he's not with you? Kushina asked. No, unfortunately not. He enjoys independence. Orochimaru replied, but he would gladly help me if I asked, since I helped him get so strong. Kushina looked at Minato and could see that he was furious, but keeping a calm face to hide it. Without a word he sent a kunai flying at Orochimaru, who dodged it with ease and threw one with a seal into the back of Tobi's head, activating the full transformation into an unstoppable killing machine. Minato only cursed as he unsealed a katana for Kushina and then warped to the kunai that was behind Orochimaru, running at the traitor who only laughed as he dodged the attacks, while Kushina fought off Tobi, who had summoned his legendary partner Enma and turned him into a staff, pushing back Kushina, who was using just a regular katana. The 2 fights raged, going back and forth before Minato stopped fighting Orochimaru and sent a kunai into the back of the distracted Tobi, which he Hiraishined to and rammed a Rasengan into his head, stopping him while he nodded for Kushina to protect him while he performed the sealing. It didn't take long for him to place the appropriate seal onto his predecessor and soon had him sealed into a tight bundle that only he could unlock as he faced Orochimaru, who had drawn Kusanagi and was keeping Kushina at bay with ease. Minato took this moment to examine the village and spotted the enemy in the stands with the various shinobi that hadn't been caught in the game jutsu. The villagers were being evacuated quickly, with the genin and chunin covering them, while the jonin fought off the enemy that were trying to follow after them. The clan heads were in peak form as they fought off the enemy as well, and he could see Jiraiya on one of his toads as he fought off the multiple snake summons. Nodding his head he stopped when he saw a giant tanuki in the forest and realized that it was Gaara and he had transformed. Shaking his head at the worried thoughts that had crossed his mind, he refocused on Orochimaru and knew that to get out, he would have to deal with this madman. In the forest Naruto watched in amusement as Sasuke had pursued Gaara and his siblings and another team of genin had followed after. Sakura, Shikamaru and Shino were hot on the Avengers' tail, with Shikamaru dropping back to deal with a platoon of Odo shinobi that were chasing after them, then Shino stopping to deal with Kankuro who was trying to attack them. Finally Sakura caught up to Sasuke, who had come face to face with Gaara and Temari. Temari looked worried as Gaara started to transform and had the bright idea to get out of his way as she leapt away. Sakura realized that she should follow the other girl's lead and moved out of the way as Sasuke and Gaara faced each other. The battle was fast, and Naruto already knew the winner before the first blow had hit. Sasuke had started with a fire jutsu and Gaara, in his transformed state, used his Biju arm to block the strike and then send a barrage of sand shurikens at Sasuke, who dodged them and then attacked again. The back and forth went for a few minutes before Sasuke struck with his Chidori and managed to wound Gaara again, but in his maddened state, he barely noticed as he smashed Sasuke into a tree with his transformed arm. Naruto only sighed as he leapt down and cut Gaara off before he could finish Sasuke off. "Sorry, but I can't let you kill him," Naruto stated as he eyed the mad Jinchuriki and only smirked as he decided that leaving him alive to be of use later would be much more beneficial than killing him here and now. "Your mother wants your blood," he shouted as his arm shot towards him, and Naruto smirked as he flipped over it and drew his sword, slicing through the appendage with ease, shocking Gaara who howled in pain as he reattached the arm. As he reattached the arm he started to transform even more, and soon all that was left of his normal self was his legs. "You've gone quite insane it seems," Naruto noted as he dodged around Gaara's arms and tail, but then again, having a demon that doesn't let you sleep can do that to you. "Shut up," Gaara shouted as he struck out again. "Why, am I touching a nerve?" Naruto asked as he bounced off a tree that was soon destroyed by the rampaging demon. "You see, in the end you can't beat me, because I have put much more into getting stronger than you. You rely on that demon instead of putting it in its place." "Silence," Gaara screamed as he struck again. "You're only mad because I'm telling you the truth. What's the matter, too weak to even suppress a single demon? You'll never be strong if you don't learn to control that massive power of yours." Naruto continued as he weaved around the attacks, already seeing his weak point but enjoying tormenting the young man. "Die!" Gaara roared as he struck with all three of his limbs, making it very dangerous for Naruto to dodge without getting hit. Naruto simply smirked as he did the one thing that Gaara hadn't expected and charged him, getting right in his face as he wrapped his hand in lightning chakra and smashed it into his face, jolting him and sending him skidding back as Naruto flickered from sight and took his back before his tail could retract and placed a seal on the bottom side of the tail. Leaping higher up Naruto saw the limbs retract and made a single seal before smirking as the explosive tag went off and destroyed the sand body that Gaara had been building. "You have much potential Gaara no Sabaku, but until you master that demon's powers you will never best me," Naruto stated as Gaara gave him a death glare before making a seal and all the sand wrapped around him, and soon he was growing to a massive height and Naruto realized that he was transforming into his full Biju form. Grinning Naruto leapt back from the giant foot as he created a clone to get Sasuke out of the line of fire as he started flashing through the hand signs for the jutsu that Kakuzu had shown him to use against Biju like this. "Gyuden. Arashi Shin no Ken Fist of the Storm God," Naruto roared as he finished the jutsu and felt the drain on his chakra, nearly taking everything that he had as the weather started to change and a funnel cloud started to form over Gaara before a blast of pure wind and destruction smashed down into the unsuspecting Jinchuriki, smashing him into the ground and kept putting more pressure until Gaara was almost unconscious. And the sand had completely dissipated. Naruto chuckled as he swallowed a soldier pill to keep up his strength as he leapt down to Gaara and walked over to the red-haired boy who was barely alive. "Let this show you Gaara no Sabaku. You have much to learn and greater heights to reach," Naruto stated as he looked at the teen who stared at him with something akin to fear. "Learn to master your demon and come find me then. I will help you reach the greatness that you so deserve." "Who are you?" Gaara gasped. Naruto leaned down and whispered in Gaara's ear, "I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the prodigal son of the Yadaime Hokage, and I will bring this world to a new age." Smirking as he stood up and walked away he saw Sasuke near the edge of the blast zone and staring at him. "You're no genin," Sasuke stated. "I'm not." Naruto nodded. "I was hired to keep you safe." "I who?" "Orochimaru. I owed him a favor and he wanted me in this exam to make sure that you didn't bite off more than you could chew." Naruto shrugged. "And how will he take you betraying him like that?" "Not well, but he can't do jack shit about it. I am just as strong as he is, and he well knows it." Naruto replied with a sadistic grin, "And as for you my young uchiha, you still have a lot of growing to do if you want to kill Itachi." "How do you know my brother?" Sasuke snapped as he tried to stand but found it impossible at this time. "I met him during my travels. I have seen his strength and you are far from his level. Allow me to give you some advice. The village fears that cursed seal upon your neck, as well they should. While it does leech your chakra, it is also capable of making you far stronger than you normally would be, as I am sure that you have noticed. Learn how to utilize this power and you will grow even stronger. But Kakashi-sensei said that if I grow dependent on it, I would fail. Sasuke noted. Only if you just use the cursed seal. There is a balance that must be reached if you want to use its power with minimal drawbacks. Learn that balance and I am sure that you could grow even more powerful than you could even imagine. Naruto grinned. And how would you know? Sasuke asked. Because Orochimaru's experiments have helped me grow as well. I let him experiment on me when I was a child and it allowed me to unlock my latent potential. That is one of the reasons as to why I am so much stronger than you. And the other reasons? Sasuke snipped. I have trained until I couldn't even move for 10 years, plus plenty of experiments were conducted on me. I am not foolish enough to say that I am the strongest shinobi in the world, but I am one of the most deadly shinobi to be born in a very long time. Naruto chuckled as he started to walk away. Grow stronger Sasuke Uchiha, grow stronger, and I may come find you again one day to have you stand beside me as I change this world to fit my image. And I promise you that if you do, I will help you kill your brother and help you learn the truth behind the Uchiha massacre. What? Sasuke shouted as he turned to look at the blonde, but he was gone, without a single trace to show where he had gone. On top of the Kage viewing box, Orochimaru realized that his plan had been foiled and that Naruto had betrayed him. No one else could have used an S-rank jutsu like that without any preparation. Now he was trapped fighting against another Kage-level shinobi and his wife who was almost as strong. Leaping away, he created several dozen Tsuchi-bunshin as he had his bodyguards drop the barrier as they fled, letting the clones distract the shinobi as they quickly escaped the village, giving the order to retreat. Minato frowned at how Orochimaru had retreated and saw that the enemy Jinchuriki had been dealt with. Sighing, Minato let his gaze wander the village and saw that for the most part the enemy was falling back. Lord Hokage. An Anbu agent said as he approached from the other side of the viewing box, the enemy is falling back and somehow Gaara no Sabaku has been defeated. Do we know who did it? Minato asked. No. We had reports that Sasuke Uchiha pursued him and his siblings out into the forest and Kakashi had Shikamaru Nara, Shino Aburami and Sakura Haruno pursue him. We have sent Anbu to pick them up and so far we have found Shikamaru and his sensei Asuma Tobi with several captured Odonin and Shibi Aburami has found his son and is treating the poison that he had been exposed to. The Anbu agent explained. I see. What of Yami? I don't see him amongst the fighting. Minato noted. He seems to have disappeared, sir. Was the answer, and Minato had a bad taste in his mouth about this entire situation. Shaking his head, he soon made his way towards the various areas that still had enemy shinobi fighting and aided in their defeat. By the end of the day, Konoha had lost several dozen shinobi and a handful of civilians that hadn't managed to get to the shelters in time. Suna had lost nearly half of their invading force and were suing for peace, saying that Orochimaru had killed the real Yodium Kazekage and had taken his place to make them go to war. Gaara and his siblings had managed to escape back to the village where the red-headed Jinchuriki was now working on subduing Shukaku, something that none of his predecessors had ever attempted. Odo had lost 2/3 of their shinobi, with most dead but plenty captured to be interrogated. And Naruto now stood atop the Hokage monument again as he watched the sunset and decided that it was time to begin his plan. He now had followers that would obey him and he had placed the seeds of darkness into Hinata, Sasuke and Gaara, and with Gaara would likely come his siblings. Things were starting to unfold just the way he wanted. But the setting sun comes the end of an age. Naruto mused as he walked away, heading for AIM, and with the end of an age shall come a much darker night. Naruto returned to AIM in an unusually good mood. As he entered the country he spotted Konan waiting for him and with her was the diva body. Konan-sensei, Nagato-sensei. Naruto nodded as he walked over to them. We received word about what occurred during the Chunin exams. Konan smiled, we heard you managed to defeat the Ichibi. Yeah, but it was almost too much. I showed off too much against Naruto. He noted. You learn from your mistake. Nagato replied, that is all that matters. Naruto nodded before asking where's Tobi. Where he usually is. Konan replied as Naruto nodded before heading into the village. For the rest of the day Naruto relaxed and the next day he went to find his friend. It took him a while to navigate the hidden tunnels under AIM, but he did manage to finally find Tobi, sitting at a desk as he went over his plans. Tobi. Naruto said as he walked into the room. Ah, Naruto-kun. Tobi chuckled. I read the report about the Chunin exams, well done indeed. I thought so too. Naruto nodded as he sat at the other chair next to the desk. So did you put your sister in her place? Oh yeah. Probably shattered her confidence too. Naruto grinned. Excellent. Tobi laughed. So how are your plans coming? Naruto asked. Moving along nicely. We should be ready to start capturing the Jinchuruki in a few months. Tobi explained, and then we can cast the Genjutsu and end this farce we call reality. I see. Naruto nodded as he stood up and placed a hand on Tobi's shoulder. I still owe you for getting me out of Konoha. No, you don't. Tobi replied, you paid that off by becoming so strong. Oh? Naruto asked as a smirk crept onto his face and a poisoned kunai slipped into the hand he had removed from Tobi's shoulder. Before the masked nin could go intangible, Naruto had stabbed him with it and Tobi realized that Naruto had betrayed him. He began before the poison closed his airway. Naruto nodded as he watched Tobi collapse. You see, I don't like your plan. A Genjutsu reflected off of the moon. That is crazy. I prefer my plan. I intend to rule this world and for that I can't have you getting in my way. But don't worry, I won't let all of you die. I'll take the Sharingan of yours that I have seen through that mask you wear. Leaning down, he removed Tobi's mask and stared into the eyes of the young man that had helped him so much. Reaching down, Naruto pulled out his eye before placing it into a jar that he had prepared for this situation. Standing up, he looked at Tobi with a smile as his only friend died right in front of him. Flashing through hand signs, he set the body ablaze and then walked off, moving through the catacombs to the secret exit that Tobi had shown him and out into the world. It took him a few hours before he reached the medic nin that he had hired to perform the surgery. Are you sure? The man asked again. If you ask me one more time I will kill you once this is done. Naruto growled. The man only nodded before removing Naruto's right eye and then implanting Tobi's eye in its place. Once the surgery was done, he let Naruto remove the bandage and the blonde blinked as he went to the mirror and saw that the first experiment had overridden the constant Sharingan and turned his eyes to their usual black and red. Frowning, he focused chakra to his eye and saw the Sharingan appear and the frown disappeared. Now about my payment. The man began. Nodding, Naruto turned and sent a kunai through his throat. There it is. Naruto nodded. Keep the change. But that taken care of, Naruto returned to the Akatsuki base where he quickly made his way to Nagato's real body. Once he was in the room, he walked over to the handicapped man and tapped his shoulder. Naruto? He exclaimed when he saw him. I came to tell you that Tobi is gone. Naruto stated as he looked at his sensei. Gone? Nagato asked with a frown. Yes. He intended to betray you. He didn't have the same goals as you did, so I got rid of him. You go ahead and complete your plan. Naruto smiled. But how do you know for certain? Nagato asked. Tobi couldn't keep secrets from me. Naruto shrugged. Now if you will excuse me, I'll be leaving as well. Where will you go? To build a place for myself. I have remained idle far too long. Naruto replied. Until we meet again, Nagato-sensei. Naruto was soon on his way out of AIM, heading to the safe house that he had built in Hai no Kuni and where his followers would be waiting for him. He entered the base to find that the pair were hard at work to learn the jutsus that he had given them. Kin was working on various ninjutsu along with sound and wind-based ninjutsu. Her chakra wasn't very high, but her control was perfect, so she was able to handle up to B-rank ninjutsu for the moment. Dosu had been given 2 new sound gauntlets and also what Naruto called a sonic dagger that would send waves of sound through his opponent when it would make contact with them, disorienting them, as well as being a weapon that would be next to impossible to dodge. As the blade was created entirely by sound alone, very similar to wind-enhanced weaponry. How goes it? Naruto asked as he entered. We are doing well, my lord. Dosu nodded. Yes, I have mastered 3 of the Genjutsus that you left me, as well as 2 of the wind ninjutsu and 3 of the sound. Kin added. Good. Naruto nodded. I am going to be doing some research in the other room. In a few days we are going to begin executing my master plan. Yes, sir. The pair nodded as they continued working. Naruto was soon engrossed in his work and nodded at what he was finding. There were plenty of nations that he could start his empire in, but one was sticking out to him. Nami no Kuni, a small island nation that had fallen on hard times due to the tyrannical rule of Gedo, an industrialist that had bought the daimyo of the country and was taxing the villagers to the point they were barely surviving. The reason that this one was sticking out was the fact that they had been turned down by Konoha for help. Apparently an old bridge builder named Tazuna had gone to them to hire shinobi, but only had enough for a C-rank mission and lied about the difficulty. When the team had found out, they had gone straight back and Nami no Kuni had been blacklisted and they refused to help the small nation. Naruto felt that it would be sweet irony if he took this nation as his first part of his kingdom and nodded once he looked over the rest of the details. The next morning the 3 shinobi were heading for Nami no Kuni, with Naruto already planning on how to turn this nation to his own. He knew about the 4 shinobi that Gedo had hired as his personal bodyguards and he also knew about his army, but he wasn't too concerned about how dangerous they would be compared to him and his 2 servants. It was dusk when they finally arrived and Naruto had them camp in the woods for the night and the next day they would go and begin their rebellion. At dawn Naruto made his way to the home of the late Tazuna and knocked on the door. Tazuna had been killed after he had returned and refused to stop building the bridge, with his skeleton still hanging from the incompleted bridge. When the door opened there was a young woman standing there, looking at him with pure fear in her eyes. "Yes?" she asked. "If I may, I would like to speak to you inside." Naruto stated calmly, "I promise you that I have nothing to do with Geto." This seemed to slightly calm the woman down, and she led him inside, where they were soon seated in the kitchen with her nursing a cup of tea while Naruto sat there. A few moments later a young man sat down with a woman, and Naruto realized that this was Inari, the grandson of Tazuna. "I will be blunt. I am here to remove Geto from power," Naruto stated, as the pair's eyes shot wide open. "I know you may think that this is impossible, but I will have you know that I am as strong if not stronger than the Hokage of Konohagakure." "Did they send you?" Inari spat. "Hardly. I have no love for that village. I came here to remove a scumbag from power and set this nation free." "What do you really want?" Inari hissed. "I know you aren't doing this because you're a good guy, there are no good guys. I can understand why you think that, and it is true that I want something. What I want is to unite the world under a single banner, and I will start that here. I will remove Geto and the corrupt daimyo from power, and in exchange I will rule this land. You will find my rule far less harsh than Geto's," Naruto replied. "I doubt it," Inari spat. "Well, it is either the devil you know that is slowly killing you, or the devil you don't that is promising a better life, plus the bridge being completed and revenge on Geto." Naruto smirked as he saw Inari perk up at that. "I will personally bring him to you to remove his head, right on the completed bridge." "That won't be possible. Geto will kill anyone that he sees going to work on the bridge," Tsunami warned. "I and my 2 associates will deal with that," Naruto replied with a grin. "So what do you say? The promise for freedom under my rule, and you get to complete the bridge that Tazuna started, plus getting to kill Geto yourself. It is a very good deal." Tsunami and Inari traded looks, but they finally spoke. "We aren't the only ones that you have to convince. We will have a town meeting, and you can make your offer there. If they accept, then we will do as you ask." "Deal?" Naruto smiled as he stood up. "Inform me of when and where this meeting will be, and I will be there." With that he walked away and returned to camp. The next day Naruto found a notice about the town meeting posted and smiled as he saw that it was actually a clever ruse to make sure that unless you knew the cipher, you wouldn't know where to go. Naruto however had seen such ciphers from Kakuzu and quickly cracked where it would be. That night Naruto arrived at the meeting point and again made his offer, this time to the whole of Nami no Kuni. At first this was met with disdain, but eventually someone asked the one question that Naruto had been waiting for. "Why us?" To put it simply, you were a nation that could use liberating. And because Konoha turned you down. I want this place to become a thriving nation under my rule, to stick our nose up at the village that had refused to help you," Naruto explained with a grin. "And how would you deal with Geto and the daimyo's forces?" another man asked. "With the point of my blade," Naruto replied with a smirk. "I have a secure place to hold Geto until I can deliver him to Inari here to give the final blow. I can begin as soon as you agree, or you can decline this last chance to free yourselves and I will leave." The villagers traded looks and finally they nodded their acceptance. Naruto soon left, motioning for Dosu and Kin to emerge from the shadows. "How tight is security on Geto's compound?" he asked as they walked. "Nothing we can't handle. The 4 shinobi don't stay in the compound, they are located in a treetop hut in the forest," Kin reported. "Are any there at this time?" Naruto continued. "None. This time of night Geto relies on his thugs," Dosu replied. "And the 4 shinobi, do we have names?" "Yes. The leader is one to be slightly concerned about, Zabuza Mamachi. With him is a masked nin, female from the looks of it, and the Oni brothers," Dosu explained. "Anything else?" Naruto asked. "Only that they are unhappy with their current employment. Apparently Geto has been paying them less than what they have been getting," Kin added. "I see. This works to our advantage." Naruto grinned. "We strike tonight. Geto will be captured and his army killed. Leave no survivors." "Yes sir." The pair nodded as they faded back into the shadows as Naruto made his way to the compound. The 3 arrived in total darkness, slipping onto the walls and silently killing each of the guards as they went. It didn't take long before the entire exterior was filled with dead bodies, with not a single one having made a sound as they died. It was then that Naruto gave the word that the 2 were to go up to the roof and work from the top down, while he entered through the first floor and worked his way up. The door opened noiselessly, and Naruto was soon killing anyone that he came across, whether they be soldier or servant. If they weren't in chains they were killed like the rest. It took all of a half hour for him to kill everyone on the first floor and the basement before he reached the second floor and found Dosu and Kin waiting for him outside a door. "Geto is in here," Dosu reported. "We already cleared the room." "Good." Naruto nodded as he walked in and stood over the sleeping Geto, snapping him out of his sleep as he placed a foot on his throat. "Good evening, piggy. I'm here to hold you until the slaughter. Before Gato could scream, Naruto had his Sharingan activated and was dragging Gato into the Kamui dimension. Once this was finished, Naruto nodded to the other two shinobi as he began searching the compound for all the valuables and taking a tally of all the money, food and other essentials that were inside this one place. Once he was done, he told the two to stay here and he would go and deal with the shinobi. It was dawn when he managed to find the treetop cottage, and when he got close, he spotted the Oni brothers about to ambush him. I would advise against that if you want to live. He told them and saw them both blink and freeze at this. Not bad, Gaki. Zabuza said from behind him. Now who are you and what do you want? My name is Naruto and I am the soon-to-be ruler of this nation. Naruto replied as he faced Zabuza. I have already killed all of Gato's men that were stationed at his compound and have hidden him in a place that only I am able to access. I intend to remove the daimyo from power as well and have the villagers complete the bridge. Now as for the reason that I am here, I want to hire you. Hire us? Zabuza chuckled. What makes you think that we would listen to you? You listened to that fat sack of crap. Naruto pointed out. He had money. And I now have all of his, minus what will be returned to the villagers. Naruto countered. And if I decline? I kill you. Naruto stated calmly. You think you can? Zabuza growled. I spar on par with Kisame and have managed to best him a handful of times. Naruto replied as he saw Zabuza's eyes widen. So you tell me if I won't be able to kill you. Okay, Zabuza nodded. What do you want us to do? I want you to go back into Mizu-no-Kuni, search out the rebels that seek to overthrow the Yade Mizukage, and inform them that I will help finance them. And if things look as bad as I think they do, I will personally kill him. And what do you want in exchange? Zabuza asked. I will want the right to name the next Mizukage and the entire loyalty of Kurigakure no Sato. Naruto stated with a cold grin. Zabuza blinked at this and realized that this blonde teen wanted more than to rule a small island. You're making a play for power. He stated. I am making an empire. Naruto corrected. Now the only question is, will you be joining me in making it or will you just be another sacrifice to my plans? Zabuza started to sweat as he felt the pure kai coming off of the red-eyed shinobi and knew that this kid would easily kill him and the others if they tried to oppose him. Fine. Zabuza nodded. Good. Naruto nodded in turn. I will of course be placing seals onto you that will kill you if you attempt to betray me. Fine. Zabuza nodded, valuing his own life. Soon Naruto had the four standing to the cottage as he made the seal array on each of them. The Oni brothers were no problem, as was Zabuza, but the last member of their group didn't want to remove their shirt. It is either you remove it or I will kill all four of you. Naruto replied coldly and saw that this seemed to have the desired effect on Haku, who soon had their shirt off, and Naruto nodded at the small bust that she had. It took all of a few minutes to get the seals in place, and once this was done he activated them and gave them their orders. Again, go to Mizu-no-Kuni, find the rebels and inform them that you have been sent by the new ruler of Nami-no-Kuni to offer assistance. Naruto told them. The four nodded and were soon on their way, while Naruto made his way to Inari's home. Once he gave them the news they were ecstatic and Naruto told them that the stolen goods would be returned after he dealt with the daimyo. As Naruto walked through the village he could see the news reaching the people and there were cheers shouting for what he had done. It was noon when he reached the daimyo's palace and saw that what had remained of Gato's thugs had joined with the daimyo's guards. Let this be your only warning. Naruto shouted, anyone that does not throw down their weapon and surrender will be killed. Daimyo, I will have your head for your corruption. When this was said he started towards the palace, greeted at first by jeers, but when they tried to shoot him down, they found that their arrows passed right through him like he was a mirage. Once he reached the gates he drew his blade and cut the hinges off before pumping chakra into his leg and kicking the gate, letting it fly down the path and smashed the two guards at the doors, killing them before they even realized what had happened. As Naruto walked down the path the guards tried to overwhelm him, but his blade was too fast and they all died before they could reach him. Once all the guards outside were dead he went to the door and this time only kicked them open and saw the archers waiting for him. Fire. The commander shouted as they let loose the shafts. Naruto only smirked as he went intangible and walked right towards them, stopping once they were out of arrows. My turn. Naruto grinned as he activated the Gurti Seishinken and slashed through the archers, letting them all fall dead, or wishing that they were. Naruto walked with the howling blade through the palace, making his way ever closer to the daimyo, and found more and more guards throwing themselves at him and him just leaving their dead bodies on the ground as he walked. It took almost 30 minutes, but he finally found the ruler of the nation. He was huddled behind close to a dozen armed samurai that were ready for the blonde. Stop there. The leader shouted. No. Naruto replied as he sent the ranged attack at them, taking the heads off of all 12 as he walked towards the daimyo. He finally stopped in front of the cowering man who looked like he had already pissed himself. Please, I'll give you whatever you want, just spare me. he pleaded. No. Naruto replied coldly as he stabbed the man through the throat and knelt down in front of him, your nation is mine now. With those final words Naruto pulled his blade out and sheathed it. He soon walked out of the room and began searching through the palace, finding the records room where the daimyo kept his taxes and the kickback that he had been getting from Geto. Naruto soon created several clones to go through this, and once this was settled, he made more to clear out the dead bodies while he walked back outside. Over the next week there was plenty of celebration over the complete turn that Nami no Kuni had taken. The people were thrilled that the new ruler had returned all of their stolen goods and had also allowed them to complete the bridge. All he had asked for in turn was that they only pay a monthly tax of 1/6 of their total earnings and that they each get a seal placed on them. None of them were quite sure what this was for, but they trusted the new leader and what he had planned. On the day of that the bridge was completed, Naruto arrived on the bridge, flanked by Dosu and Kin as he stopped in front of Inari, who had led the villagers in the completion of the bridge. As promised, here is your vengeance. Naruto nodded as he opened the doorway to the dimension, and Geto came falling out, a lot thinner but still alive. Naruto placed a foot on Geto's back and then handed Inari his katana. The young man held it and stared at his hated tormentor, and in a roar of pure rage and anguish, he swung the katana down, taking the former industrialist's head and letting it bounce on the bridge. Well done. Naruto nodded as he looked at the people. Now there is another reason why you are all here. That is to activate the seals. This was met with confused looks, but as Naruto made a single hand sign, all negative thoughts of him left their minds. He was their leader, what he said was law, and there was no way that they could disobey him. What did you do, sir? Kin asked. The common people are nothing but fools and sheep. So I made them into real sheep. They will do what I command without a moment's hesitation, watch. Inari, go and slap your mother. Of course. Inari replied as if it was perfectly natural as he walked over to Tsunami and slapped her so hard that she fell to the ground. See. Naruto replied, I will not tolerate dissension. They approve of me now, but eventually the people will turn against their rulers and hate and anger will take the place of the loyalty that they should show me. So I removed that entire possibility. Naruto laughed as he walked towards the palace. My people, go about your lives. If I have a need for you I will speak it. Yes, Lord Naruto. Was the cry as the people dispersed and Naruto walked back to the palace where he would soon begin making more plans for his soon-to-be empire. Naruto sighed contentedly as he leaned back in his throne, a glass of wine in his right hand as he watched a few of his thralls fight. He had been making a new force of soldiers out of some of the different men and women in the town, and he often had them spar in front of him to make them work all the harder, as none of them wanted to look weak in front of their lord and master. As he watched a particularly vicious match, he sensed Kin enter the room through the side door and approach him. Sir. Dosu has returned with information for you. Kin whispered in his ear. Very well then. Naruto nodded as he set the glass down on the small side table and rose. Enough. You have pleased me. You are dismissed for the day. Yes, Lord Naruto. The combatant said as they put away the practice weapons and left. Naruto then walked with Kin to the side room where Dosu was waiting. Well? Naruto asked. I managed to get some interesting information out of Konoha as you requested. It seems that the Hokage is planning on bringing back Tsunade Senju to train a new batch of medical nin. He's even planning on offering her to place a medical nin on every team like she petitioned the Sandaime Hokage before she left. Dosu explained. Interesting. Naruto chuckled. This seems like a good time to get a spy into the ranks of Konoha. I'll do this one myself. Inform Inari that he is to be in charge while I am away. Both of you are to return to spying and information gathering. Yes, my lord. They both nodded as they turned and left while Naruto went to his quarters and dressed for the party planned on playing. In Konoha, Minato was finishing briefing Jiraiya on the mission of bringing Tsunade back to the village. We need her back, so do whatever it takes to convince her. Minato stated. I'll see what I can do, but you know how she is. Jiraiya shrugged. Then take Naruko with you. She's been moping since she lost to Yami in the Chunin exams, and some time away from the village should be just what she needs. Minato added. In all honesty, that beatdown was just what the doctor ordered. She was getting way overconfident. Jiraiya pointed out, but I'll take her with me, she might have a better chance of getting Tsunade back than me. Minato chose to ignore Jiraiya's comment about his daughter as the older nin left and went to get the young girl. As the pair left the village, Jiraiya noted what Minato had said when he told him that Naruko was moping. Normally she was excited to go out on a mission and show her skills, but now she was quiet and didn't want to say anything to her godfather. Still upset about losing to Yami? Jiraiya asked as they walked. I'm not upset. Naruko huffed. Sure you aren't. Jiraiya chuckled. Well, there is always someone stronger than you out there. But Dad said I was the best the village has. Naruko muttered. And Yami was the best that AIM had. Plus he isn't a prodigy like you are, so he had to fight tooth and nail for his skills, thus he pushed himself further than you have for now. Jiraiya explained. Naruto was silent for a few moments before speaking. You ever lose like that? Yeah. Orochimaru kicked my ass like that once when we were kids, right in front of Tsunade too. Jiraiya chuckled, but in the end I got right back up and once I was fully healed fought him again. In the end they may be stronger than you, but it doesn't mean that they are better than you. Really? Naruto asked. Really? Yami is a tough customer, one that doesn't come around very often. Be thankful you fought him in a situation where he couldn't kill you outright in the first 5 seconds, because that is the kind of guy you run from on the battlefield. Jiraiya chuckled, and just think he still has some growing up to do himself. That's not helping me, Jiraiya. Naruto sighed as they continued walking. Naruto sighed as he entered into the next gambling town known as Mizukage. This was the 4th one that he had been to in the past week, and he was getting tired of trying to find his godmother. As he walked he stopped at a few different dens, and after playing a few hands of various games and winning a good amount of cash, he inquired about Tsunade, and to his relief she had been sighted in town. Smiling he made a mass amount of Kage bunshin and sent them searching for her, and when they disappeared, he smiled and walked straight towards the bar where she was now drinking. Naruto walked through the door and paused as he spotted Tsunade and frowned at her when he did. Tsunade looked at him and stared right back and looked to her student and muttered a question. The student made some reply before Naruto grinned as he walked over to her. "Ba-chan." He smiled as he sat down across from her. "There are only 2 children stupid enough to call me that." Tsunade chuckled as she ran an eye over Naruto. "You're looking well, Naruto." "Thanks." Naruto smiled. He had dressed all in worn black travel gear with a light pack and leather armor. On his hip was a standard katana and he had used a henge on his eyes to return them to their original cerulean stature. "Naruto." The student nodded as Naruto looked at her and suddenly recognized her. "Shizu, Nanai-chan. Man, you have grown up." He laughed. "You're one to talk. You've got to be as tall as Minato by now." Shizune chuckled. "So what are you doing here, Naruto?" Tsunade asked. "On my way back from a mission, stopping her for the night." Naruto replied. "What about you?" "Here for a few days then back to traveling." Tsunade replied with a shrug. "So how are things in the village?" Shizune asked. Naruto paused as he looked at her and then back to Tsunade. "You haven't heard?" Naruto asked with a frown. "Heard what?" Tsunade asked, slightly concerned. "I left a little more than 10 years ago." Naruto replied and watched as their eyes widened. "Left?" Tsunade exclaimed. "What are you talking about?" "I got tired of being ignored and playing second to Naruto and everything. I just up and left and no one came looking for me to my knowledge. I went to AIM, got trained to be a shinobi, and now I do freelance work." Naruto explained. "You were ignored?" Shizune asked in shock. What were Kushina and Minato thinking? Clearly about Naruto. Naruto replied with a chuckle. "It doesn't matter, I've been on my own for so long I bet they think I'm dead." "That's not a good thing, Naruto." Tsunade sighed. "You should go back." "Coming from you?" Naruto sighed. "Come on, Ba-chan, you left because you had your own ghosts there, you really don't have a right to be telling me to go back." "I'm still a loyal shinobi." Tsunade replied. "I was never a shinobi in Konoha. I left when I was still a civilian," Naruto pointed out. The 2 medics exchanged glances before looking back at Naruto. "You should at least try to make peace with your family. I'm sure that they miss you," Shizune pointed out. "I doubt it." Naruto snorted, "But for you two I will at least try." "Good." Tsunade nodded. "So what have you been up to?" Jiraiya and Naruto left the last gambling den and were soon walking towards a bar to grab a bite to eat and a drink. As they entered they spotted a blonde with his back to them, Shizune, and Tsunade, sitting there with several sake bottles on the table. "And the client looks at me and says, 'Wait, if you're here, who's watching the horses?'" The blonde laughed boisterously. "Tsunade." Jiraiya called as he walked towards the older woman. "Ah, Jiraiya." Tsunade chuckled. "This is just a day of reunions." "Oh hey, Jiraiya." Naruto smiled as he turned in his seat and saw Naruto staring at him with her mouth hanging open. "Hey. Naruto. Come take a seat." "You." Naruto shouted as she tried to punch him. Naruto only leaned enough to dodge the fist, grabbed her wrist and flipped her onto the floor. "Jesus, always to the violence. I was enjoying myself here." Naruto sighed as he looked back at the 2 medics. "Does this count as me trying to make nice?" "No." Tsunade sighed as she looked at Naruto on the floor. "Well, pull up a chair. You too, Jiraiya." Soon the 2 newcomers were seated at the table and Shizune looked at Naruto. "So what happened with the rest of that mission?" she asked. "Had to walk all the way back to the town, but the mission was a success and this guy gave me an outstanding review." Naruto chuckled. "So what are you doing here, Jiraiya?" "I'm here on business actually." Jiraiya sighed as he looked at Tsunade. Minato sent me to ask you to come back to the village. He's prepared to accept the proposal that you made to Tobi-sensei years ago. HMPH. Tsunade snorted, and if I decline? Minato asked me to do everything in my power to convince you. Jiraiya stated, look, I know that you don't like the village, but we do need you. Tsunade was silent for a few moments before Naruto spoke. Weren't you just telling me that you were a loyal nin and would go back when they asked? Naruto asked with a smug grin. Naruto, if you don't want to get punched into next week, I'd stay out of this. Tsunade said, but a grin was forming in the corners of her mouth. Please, Bachan. After what Orochimaru did to the village, we need all the medical nin we can get. Naruto begged, and my teammate Sakura would be a great candidate, she already has great chakra control. Tsunade stated Naruto in the eye as the young girl gave her the puppy dog eyes and soon sighed before speaking. Geez. I'll think about it, okay? That's fine. Jiraiya nodded as he started sipping his own glass of sake. So Naruto, you're looking well. Constant training for 10 years will do that to you. Naruto chuckled. Soon they were having pointless banter, with Naruto glaring at Naruto every time he spoke, and by the time the bar closed, Jiraiya was helping a very drunk Tsunade back to the hotel, while Naruto went to their hotel to sleep, leaving Naruto alone with Shizune as they walked. Naruto seemed very upset with you. Shizune noted. Yeah. But we never did get along too well. Naruto nodded as they walked. I know, but from her reaction it seems like she really hates you now. She might, maybe mom and dad did feel some regret and pushed her harder to try and forget about it. Either way, it doesn't matter too much to me. Naruto stated as he glanced around. Something wrong? Shizune asked as she spotted the glance. Nothing, thought I heard something. Naruto shrugged as he now knew that the street was empty and that there was no one nearby. Moving with a speed that Shizune wasn't expecting, he knocked her out and smirked as he pulled her into a deserted alley. Once there, he moved her shirt enough to get to her chest, where he began the intricate seal pattern that would become the slave seal once activated. It took a few minutes, but once it was finished he activated it and the chakra pulse from it woke Shizune up. Master Naruto, how may I serve you? Shizune said, her head bowed to him. You are to be my spy inside Konoha. You are going to act normally around everyone else unless otherwise ordered to. You will send me regular reports, sending them by messenger bird to a different outpost that I will designate with my reply. You will follow my orders discreetly and ensure that you raise no suspicion when you are following them. Yes, Master Naruto. Shizune nodded. Good, now act normally around me for the rest of the time here and make sure to raise no suspicion from Tsunade. Naruto added. Of course, Naruto. Shizune nodded again as they walked out of the alley and soon went their separate ways, with Naruto heading for his hotel room. The blonde slept lightly, so he was able to hear the hissing of the explosive tag on the outside of his window. Reacting with swiftness that is only born from years of practice, he switched out with a Kage Bunshin and reappeared on the building across the street just as the tag went off, and he saw Naruto jump through the smoke and into the room, only to find that he wasn't there. Naruto grinned as he sat where Naruto would be able to see him when she turned to go back out the ruined wall and waited for a few moments when he saw her turn and see him. You. She shouted as she threw several shuriken at him that would have hit him directly had he not jumped down, using chakra to adhere himself to the side of the building as he flashed through hand signs. Futen. Sanden JK shotgun. Naruto stated as he fired dozens of widespread wind spheres, the size of marbles, into his sister, who hadn't had time to react, and sent her skidding back from the shots. Naruto frowned as she didn't charge him and blinked when he saw the blast of fire heading right for him. Leaping up, he saw the fire jutsu smash into the building and that his sister had come out at him, flashing through more hand signs. Kaiten. Kiriki Ndan Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Naruto roared as 3 different fire dragons headed for Naruto, who saw them and grinned as he flashed through more hand signs. Suiton. Mizu no Tate Shield of Water. Naruto grinned as he spewed out tons of water from his mouth and had it form a sphere around him that the fire hit, creating a massive column of steam as he poured more and more water into it to keep himself from being roasted alive. Once the fire stopped, Naruto used the steam to his advantage and activated his Sharingan and was able to pick out where exactly his sister was as he moved towards her, katana drawn, and struck with the back of it, sending her skidding from the rooftop where she had landed and falling towards the street. Naruto instantly reacted, landing on the side of the building like Naruto had earlier and skidded to a stop while sending a few kunai flying up in case her brother chose to continue the assault. She was rewarded by the sound of her kunai being deflected, and she took a fighting stance and let her ears pick out the sounds of Naruto attacking her. Naruto and Naruto were soon locked in a deadly dance, with the blonde girl using 2 kunai to hold off his katana, while Naruto made sure to keep his attacks short and swift so she wouldn't be able to use the 2 kunai defense system. It wasn't long before the steam cleared and the two were able to see again, with Naruto stopping his Sharingan and focusing more on his hyper-awareness to keep track of his sister's attacks. They fought. The two were fighting for several more minutes before they were both grabbed by the backs of their necks and thrown apart by Jiraiya, who stood in between them on the side of the building, looking absolutely furious. "Enough," he shouted at them as he looked at both of them. Naruto looked ashamed when he started shouting at her, and before she could try and argue, Jiraiya sent her a glare that told her not to try it. Naruto sheathed his blade and met Jiraiya's gaze with one that said he was perfectly clear of any crime. "Jiraiya!" Tsunade shouted as she arrived. "Shizune has gotten the last of the civilians away. What is going on here?" "That's what I would like to know." Jiraiya agreed as he looked between the two blondes who would like to explain. "She attacked me," Naruto stated calmly. "I was sitting in my hotel room when I heard the sound of an explosive tag outside my window. I reacted and used the Kawarimi no Jutsu to get out of the room. I saw Naruto go in, and when she came back out I attacked in self-defense, using techniques that would do minimal harm to her and my surroundings." "Naruto?" Jiraiya began as he looked at the girl who glared at Naruto before speaking. "I wasn't going to kill him, just beat him up enough to tell me where he hid mom's sword and dad's scroll." "What now?" Tsunade asked as she looked at Naruto. "I took those when I left," Naruto explained with a shrug, "and they are in a safe place that only I can get to." Naruto. Tsunade sighed as she looked between the blondes. "You both are idiots." "Hey!" The two blondes in question shouted at the same time before glaring at one another. "This is old news in the village, Tsunade." Jiraiya replied. Minato already had copies of the jutsus in the scroll, so he managed to make another one that was very close to the one that Naruto took, and Kushina has managed to get another katana. "But they shouldn't have had to. If you hadn't run away none of this would have happened," Naruto shouted. "If I had stayed I would have always been in your shadow. I made my choice and am happier from it," Naruto retorted as he looked at Tsunade. "If this is what I have to make nice with then forget it. I'd rather walk barefoot through the K's no Kuni desert than try to make amends with a spoiled brat and the bastards that claim to be my parents." But that Naruto disappeared in swirl of leaves that was quickly followed by Jiraiya, while Tsunade stopped Naruto from following them. "Naruto!" Jiraiya shouted as he caught up to the blonde who had stopped a few blocks away. "What?" Naruto sighed as he stopped. "What is going on here? When I saw you at the Chunin exams your eyes were different and you were an AIM shinobi." "Undercover." Naruto sighed as he let the hinge drop. "I'm supposed to be getting close to the new ruler in Nami no Kuni." "Why?" Jiraiya asked. "Because Nagato is worried about this. This guy is up to something and he doesn't want to be caught flat-footed. He sent me undercover to get close to this guy and find out what he is up to. He's gathering forces for something, but no one knows what." Jiraiya frowned at this new information. He had known about this mysterious new ruler of Nami no Kuni, but didn't have too many details since they had closed their borders to Hai no Kuni in response to Konoha blacklisting them. He knew now that he would need to watch this nation very carefully in the future. "So why were you here?" Jiraiya asked. "I was on my way back from working as a free sword. I need to build a reputation first. That's why." Naruto shrugged as he put the hinge back up. "I need to go before Naruto causes more trouble." "Here." Naruto then tossed Jiraiya a stack of bills to cover the damages. "I tried to keep them to a minimum, but you know how Naruto is." "Yeah. Still, be careful, Naruto. I'd hate to hear that you got yourself killed." "Thanks, Jiraiya." Naruto nodded as he turned and left. Jiraiya sighed as he went back to Naruto and Tsunade, who were standing in the street with the chief of police. "This was a Konoha matter," Jiraiya stated to calm the officer, "and we are prepared to pay for the damages." Still the officer began. "Here." Jiraiya said as he handed the officer the stack of bills that Naruto had given him, plus a few more of his own, to pay for the damages and any injuries for the people who were caught in the middle of this. "If it's not enough, send word to the Hokage and he will see to it that the rest is taken care of." "Fine. But if this happens again we will arrest any parties involved." The officer growled as he turned and walked away while Jiraiya glared at Naruto. "You are going to be paying me back every last ryo of that," he stated calmly as the girl looked ashamed. "I don't care what Naruto took, that was no excuse for causing so much damage and endangering people's lives. You need to use your head more before you act." "I'm sorry," Naruto said as the older Sannin just sighed and looked at Tsunade. "Anything to add?" "No. You summed it up pretty well." Tsunade nodded as Shizune came up and told them that the worst of the wounded she had treated and that the rest had only minor injuries. It wasn't long before they returned to the village and they were standing in Minato's office giving their report. "Alright. Let me start with this. Tsunade, Shizune. Welcome back to the village. I know that this isn't exactly the first place that you want to be, but we do very much need your help. I have a list of promising students for you to look at and hopefully we can have a medic with every team within the next 3 years. You two are dismissed." Minato started as the two nodded and left the room, being given a list of shinobi by the secretary. Once they left, Minato continued, "Now let me make sure that I have this right. You saw Naruto, who is apparently now a freelance shinobi. Naruto attacked him without provocation and you Jiraiya stopped the fight and let Naruto leave. Do I have that right?" "Yeah." Jiraiya nodded. "Couldn't bring him back since he left as a civilian and is now officially out of your reach." "I know," Minato sighed, "which is the only reason I am not shouting at you, sensei. Naruto, do you have any idea how much trouble you have caused because of your temper?" "Yes," Naruto nodded. "Then you understand that I have to punish you, both as your father and as Hokage?" "Yes." "Very well then. As Hokage, I am putting you on probation and confining you to D-rank missions for the next 6 months, meaning you get no pay for these missions, as they will all go to Jiraiya to repay him for the money he had to put up for the damage you caused. As a father, you are grounded for the next 9 months, meaning you are not allowed out of your room unless your mother or I are training you, or you are out on a mission. I will be informing Kakashi of this fact so he can make sure that you don't try to pull a fast one on either of these punishments. You are dismissed, Naruto." "Yes, sir." Naruto nodded as she walked out of the room and Minato looked at Jiraiya. "How is he?" he asked. "Doing well." Jiraiya stated. "He was talking with Tsunade and Shizune when we arrived and they had convinced him to try to make nice at least until Naruto attacked him the next morning. Overall, I'd say that he is a Chunin level shinobi, if not higher. He has good instincts and a good grasp of his surroundings in a fight since all of his jutsus caused minimal to no damage to the buildings and people around him. In fact, he was the one that gave me the majority of that money for the damages." "I see," Minato sighed. "It's good to know that he is alright. He has a grudge against you and Kushina," Jiraiya warned. "I know. And I doubt that I could ever make amends for it, but I would like to try at least. If you see him again, try to convince him to come back. I won't force him to stay, but I want the chance to make right with him." "I'll try, but he won't be easy to find. Freelance shinobi are difficult to track down as it is, and finding one in particular will be much harder." Jiraiya nodded. "Thank you." Minato smiled. This will at least put Kushina at ease a bit, especially knowing that her son is a Kenjutsuist. "It will." Jiraiya smiled as well as he left the office. From a few blocks away, Dosu smirked as the sound seal that he had slipped into the office transmitted everything to him as he copied it all down. This new information would prove most useful to Naruto, of that he was certain. Naruto frowned as he finished working on a new version of his enslavement seal. This one would use far less chakra than the other and would work just as well if his calculations were correct. He had been tinkering with this seal for many years, ever since he had started making his own plans to take over the world. When he had asked Nagato about seals, the man had explained that they were a very complex and dangerous subject to learn and that he had little experience in making them himself. Bikuzu knew a little more but not enough to quench the boy's thirst for knowledge, and so Tobi had gone and bought him every book on Fuinjutsu that he could get, and from there Naruto developed his own brand of seals that the Akatsuki used regularly. His seals were ingenious as he found what exactly it took to make a tag work and how to supercharge some elements while removing chakra costing others, thus making easier to use seals. It was from this point that he soon developed his own seals, starting with a seal that could absorb the elements, such as fire and lightning, and then release them back at an opponent, as if you had used the jutsu or caused the natural element yourself. Then he went into physical augmentation seals and finally into the mental aspects of it. These were uncharted territories, and he had to be extremely careful of how he used these seals and where. He had already killed more than 5 dozen failed seal experiments before he got the first version of the slave seal correct, and he was now finishing the third version of it and hoped that it would work as well as his other versions had. Standing up, he nodded and walked towards the civilian that they had captured from Hai no Kuni and smirked as he placed the seal onto his chest as the man struggled. With a small burst of chakra, he activated the seal and stepped back as its effects took hold. "Master," the man finally said as the seal finished its work. "Return to your home and await further instructions. Act normal as if nothing happened, and if asked about your disappearance, create a convincing and easy to remember lie," Naruto ordered. "Yes, master." The man nodded as Naruto untied him and watched him leave. Smiling to himself, Naruto cleaned up his supplies before walking out of his small Fuinjutsu room and back into the halls of his palace. As he walked, he noted various thralls working on maintaining the palace's splendor and nodded to each of them in turn as he walked past before stopping when he saw an ice mirror forming in front of him. Haku soon emerged from the mirror and bowed towards Naruto before speaking. "My lord. We have made contact with the rebels and they have agreed to your terms. However, they are requesting the assistance in defeating Jaeger as he has increased his security and they can no longer make any attempts to weaken his power without sustaining heavy losses and losing the support of the villagers that are supporting them. Haku explained. I see. Inform them that I will head to Mizu no Kuni in 10 days' time and that they are to have someone meet me at the harbor. Naruto ordered. As you wish, my lord. Haku nodded as she re-entered her mirror and left while Naruto again made his preparations to leave. It took several days to reach the eastern shores of Hai no Kuni and from there pay for passage on a vessel that would take him to Mizu no Kuni. After the long voyage was complete, Naruto disembarked smirking as he let the enthralled passengers go about their business as if nothing had occurred and knowing that this country would be a great step forward if he could manage to take it quietly. As he walked, he picked up a shadow moving towards him through the crowds and the person was soon walking beside him. I trust that you are our guest. The woman whispered as they walked. And if I am? Naruto replied. Then I am to guide you to the meeting point. You will have to forgive me, however, as we will not be taking you to our actual hideout. She replied. Of course. Naruto smirked as he let her take the lead and soon they were out of the small city and taking a ferry to a different island where she quickly led him through the mist-shrouded woods until they finally stopped. They were in a small clearing with two cloaked figures standing at the opposite end that he had entered from. You're the daimyo of Nami no Kuni? The woman across the clearing asked. I am. Naruto nodded. Then you know that we are in dire straits to be accepting outside help for an internal matter. A man stated from the side of the woman who had spoken. I do. That is why I am here. Naruto replied. I helped turn Nami no Kuni around from the downtrodden hellhole that it had become under my predecessor's leadership and I will help you to do the same. Why? The man asked. Because I have a dream of world peace and I intend to see that dream to fruition. Naruto replied. I know that you will likely not believe me and that deeds will speak louder than words, so allow me to prove to you my intentions. How so? The woman who had led him there asked. I will remove Yugeru from his position of power. All I will need is the information on his abilities, the security of the village and his personal areas. I will also need to know to what extent has your daimyo gotten involved. The three figures traded looks before speaking. We will need time to gather the maps and documents needed to show you this. The second woman explained. And do so. Time is of the essence. Naruto replied as he sat on the ground and waited as the three moved out of sight. Naruto waited a few moments before speaking. I'm out now. Zabuza only chuckled as he dropped down from the mist and stood beside Naruto. Their base is nearby enough where they shouldn't be gone for more than an hour, plenty of time for me to give you the rundown. And do so. From what my sources have gathered, the daimyo and his forces are staying out of this due to the fact that they fear that if they oppose one side or the other that they will suffer retribution should the side they choose loses. Zabuza began. Gutless wretches. Naruto snorted. Yugeru is incredibly paranoid at this time, more so than when I served him. He doesn't allow any of the same servants to have the same set schedule and he changes his randomly. He's likely suffering the negative effects of a powerful game jutsu that hasn't been updated in some time. That would likely be my late friend Tobi. Naruto chuckled. Anything else? The woman in charge is Mate Terumi. She has some powerful abilities and would likely be the next Mizukage once you get the turtle off the throne. She's the one that met you here. The man with her is a former Anbu agent here named Aoi. He has a Byakugan under his eye patch, so be cautious around him. The one that escorted you here is just a basic shinobi with no real threat to you. She was sent on the off chance that this was a trap and she could be easily lost without any repercussions on them. Zabuza explained. I see. Where are the other three? Naruto asked. In various locations, though I have kept Haku close by to deliver hidden messages when needed. She's getting better with her Hyutin since we got here. She's had more time to practice it in an espionage sense instead of a combat one. Naruto stated. Now get going, I will wait for our hosts to return. Zabuza only nodded as he disappeared into the mist again and was quickly gone from visible sight. Naruto waited for close to an hour after Zabuza left when Mei and her group returned and set down several folders in front of the blonde. This is everything that we have on Yugeru, from his abilities to the closest thing that he has to his schedule. This also included the village defenses and the layout as well. Mei explained. Excellent. And the papers regarding the daimyo? Naruto asked. In the third folder. Mei replied. Good. I will read over this and formulate my own plan. Naruto nodded as he stood up and moved into the shade of the forest as he began going over the information. The next morning he had his plan and after making sure that he was properly equipped, he slipped off towards Kurigakure no Sado. Using the mist to his advantage, he made use of his Sharingan and turned intangible as he slipped through the walls and into the village. Keeping his black cloak pulled up to hide his features and make him look like a specter in the streets of the village should anyone see him. It took some time to avoid the constant patrols that were moving about the village as he made his way into the tower and from there up to the Mizukage's office where he heard the pacing of a person. Smirking, Naruto went out a window and moved to the large window that looked in on the office to see Yugeru pacing and muttering under his breath as he tried to figure out some problem. "It's those freaks. They want me dead. I have to kill them first," he muttered, but that man with the red eyes said to not wipe them all out. But he could be a spy. Or he couldn't be. Yugeru muttered as he continued to pace as Naruto phased through the window and looked at the Yondaime Mizukage with a mix of interest and pity. Deciding that the best solution would be to take him from the very damageable village and into the Kamui dimension. As soon as he pulled the Mizukage into it, he began to panic and started to transform into his full Biju state. "No. I will not be controlled again," he roared in anger as he went into the second stage of the Biju cloak where he no longer looked human but hadn't taken the full form of the Sanbi yet. "Really now?" Naruto asked as he looked at the man and leaned around one of the tails as it tried to spear him because the man I took this eye from seemed to have done a very impressive job of manipulating you. Turned you into this raving lunatic that stands before me. Naruto then leapt over a tail that tried to stab him from behind before flipping and landing behind Yugeru. "You are suffering from the effects of a powerful genjutsu that my mentor placed on you. Allow me to alleviate it. Get away." He roared as smashed the ground and forced Naruto to move back as he shifted into his full Biju form. "The hard way it is then." Naruto chuckled as he skidded back before creating a Rasengan in his hand and a clone that was adding the elemental release. He had quickly realized that trying to do both at the same time was tricky and took a lot of preparation to finish, and that for speed a clone was the best option. At the moment he was creating his version of the lightning Rasengan, though taking it a step farther and making it into an S-rank ninjutsu as he finished it. It elongated into a spear that flickered a bright yellow light, with the point going at a diagonal that varied each time it flickered, from facing the left side to facing the right. "Die." Yugeru roared as he fired a Bijudama at Naruto, who charged forward while phasing into reality to avoid the blow and returning to the pocket dimension above Yugeru's head. "Raiden. Racing Javelin." Naruto roared as he stabbed the spear into Yugeru's neck and grinned. The electricity hit the giant turtle and caused him to roar in pain before he finally shifted back and lay twitching on the ground as his nervous system tried to recover from such a powerful technique that nearly destroyed every nerve in the body. Naruto shook his head as he walked over and looked down at the defeated Kage before using the Sharingan to enter his mind and remove the influence that Tobi had left there. Once he was finished, Naruto stepped back and waited for the Jinchuriki to recover before he spoke to him. "I'm free," Yugeru gasped as he looked at Naruto. "You saved me." "Not quite." Naruto chuckled. "You're nowhere near saved yet." "What do you mean?" "The genjutsu may have been the cause of your actions, but in the end the people want you gone. If you try to reassume control, then you are walking into an assassination attempt. The people don't want you around anymore, and the only options you have are to die here and now or to accept my offer," Naruto explained as he held eye contact with the young man. "What kind of deal?" "We will fake your death and you will become my shadow. My personal bodyguard that will help me defeat my enemies and achieve world peace." "World peace?" Yugeru asked with a snort. "That will never happen." "Maybe, but we will never know unless we try," Naruto replied with a grin. "Now what will it be?" "I'll accept. Life is preferable to death." "An excellent choice. Now hold still while I place a seal on you that will prevent you from betraying me," Naruto explained as he placed the same kill seal that he had on Zabuza and his team onto the former Kage. "This seal will kill you if you attempt to betray me in any way. I cannot afford to have my plans ruined by a traitor." "Clever," Yugeru stated as he slowly stood up. "So I am your bodyguard now. And you will also be a sounding board for ideas at times and a general when the final war begins," Naruto explained as he unsealed a black cloak with a black mask that a white design on the front to look like a turtle face. "You will wear this at all times, unless otherwise ordered to." "Fine." Yugeru nodded as he donned the mask and spoke, his voice changing seals underneath. "To hide your chakra and to alter your voice," Naruto replied as he pulled them out of the Kamui dimension. Naruto had Yugeru leave the tower and wait near the edge of the forest while he sat behind the desk with a smirk as he waited for Mei to arrive. A few hours later, Mei walked in to see him sitting there, looking over various files with a smirk as he did. "You killed him?" Mei asked. "Incinerated his body. Couldn't run the risk of him recovering from a failed attack." "Then why are you still here?" She frowned. "You forget my terms for aiding you?" Naruto chuckled as he faced her, his eyes penetrating her very soul with how dark they were. "I get to name the next Mizukage, along with the loyalty of this village." "And if we decline?" she asked. "I've held up my end of the bargain. You wouldn't want your next Mizukage to follow the footsteps of the previous one, would you?" Naruto asked, his grin still in place. "Is that a threat?" Mei hissed. "It's merely a statement. I have no intention of letting you break this agreement, so think carefully about your next choice, as it will determine if you will lead this village as a proper shinobi, or if you are simply a puppet holding this position," Naruto stated calmly. Mei glared at the blonde sitting behind the desk, and without a hint of what she intended, she spat a ball of lava at Naruto, who flickered from side as he appeared to her right, his grin gone. "Very well then." Naruto sighed as though he had just checked something off his to-do list. Spinning, he kicked Mei in the side, sending her crashing into the wall where he created 2 clones to hold her down as he walked in front of her, drawing a kunai to rip open her shirt. "What are you going to do, rape me?" she spat. "Hardly, though not because you are unattractive," Naruto replied as he unsealed his ink said, "I'm going to follow through on what I warned you. You will be the Gondai Mizukage, but in title only. Try to channel any chakra and my clones will hurt you." With those final words, he quickly began drawing the seal on her skin as she tried to resist and move, but the clones holding her wouldn't budge an inch. It only took a few moments before he finished, and once done he channeled his chakra into the seal and watched it take effect and wipe the mind of Mei Terumi, turning into a mindless doll. "Rise, slave." Naruto spat as the body complied. "You are now the Mizukage of this village. You will begin by giving the order to have all shinobi and civilians place the following seal on their hearts in order to protect them from a similar genjutsu that was placed on Yugeru. Unless I am around, you will behave as the previous you had and will ensure that no suspicion falls upon you that you are a mere puppet. Am I understood?" "Yes, my master." Mei nodded as she proceeded to make the announcement. Many of the shinobi were hesitant about this, but after Mei explained the reasoning behind this and why it would be necessary, they complied. Naruto smirked as he saw that the seals were all in place as he sent a wave of his chakra over the village, leaving him short of breath and slightly dizzy as he felt a decent amount of his chakra dissipate. Inside the village, the people suddenly all knew that Naruto was their lord and master and that even the Mizukage was his servant, and thus they were as well. They carried on as normal, knowing that he wanted them to proceed as if everything was normal unless otherwise ordered. "Most impressive," a voice behind Naruto said as he turned to see that Zetsu was standing there. "Zetsu-sensei." Naruto nodded as he faced the giant plant. "What do I owe the pleasure?" "Just checking on the man who killed Tobi." White Zetsu replied, "It was very well done. I learned from the best." Naruto replied. "But you should know that you upset our master's plans." Black Zetsu warned. "So you were taking orders from someone else?" "I thought so. Regardless, I do not care. I am implementing my own plan." Naruto replied calmly. "And doing an impressive job of it." White Zetsu snorted. "Taking control of a small nation and one of the 5 great shinobi villages is no small feat. It's only the beginning." Naruto replied, 3 different plans for world peace, only one will succeed. Let's see which of us it is." Before Zetsu could say more, Naruto walked off and made his way into the village again, while Zetsu sank into the ground and was heading back to his mysterious master to report what he had learned from Naruto. 2 days later, Mei along with Naruto went to visit the daimyo who wanted to meet the new Mizukage along with the visiting dignitary. They had to wait for several minutes before the leader would see them, and when he did he had such a false smile that Naruto wanted to kill him right then and there. "Ah, the Mizukage. I am pleased to meet you," he said as he then looked at Naruto and the new daimyo of Nami no Kuni. "A pleasure as well." "I'm sure it is." Naruto grinned as well as he closed the door behind him, silently flipping the lock and moving toward the daimyo. "Now then, first allow me to apologize for not assisting you in the matter with Yugeru. It isn't my place to interfere in shinobi matters after all," he explained. "Of course." Mei replied as she took a seat across from the older man. Naruto only stood off to the side before adding his thoughts, deciding to go with quick action instead of dragging it on and making his temper even worse. "But it is your responsibility." That would be like Mei here saying that she isn't responsible for what her genin did out on a mission. "You are the man in charge here and yet you sat behind your desk like a sniveling coward while your people suffered," Naruto stated. The Mizu daimyo sputtered a few seconds before crying, "You have no right to say that." "Don't I? Apparently you haven't heard about how I became the daimyo of Nami no Kuni. I killed my predecessor after I learned that he aided a corrupt industrialist to make a monopoly on the shipping industry and bleed the country dry, even going so far as to kill an innocent man who was trying to build a bridge to aid his people. So what makes you think that you are any different than him, allowing your people to suffer under the insane actions of the Yadaime Mizukage?" Naruto chuckled as he stepped closer, letting his kai trickle out enough to have the man trying to get as far away from the blonde as he could. "Mizukage, stop him," he shouted. "Slave, restrain him," Naruto ordered. "Yes, master," Mei stated blankly as she moved quickly and had one foot on the daimyo's back while using her hands to hold his arms behind his back. Naruto walked forward and knelt down in front of the pathetic leader in front of him. "Now then, I would kill you normally, however you are far more useful alive." Naruto chuckled as he slashed the kimono off of the man and left his bare chest clear as he started a seal pattern on the man. Once finished he triggered the seal and the man became one of his many thralls. Now then let us begin with your orders. Naruto chuckled as he had the man change clothes. You will have every person in this nation of yours place this seal upon their chests and once done you will inform me. After that you will continue to rule this nation, however my way. You be taking 15% of your total taxes and giving them to this private company. This company will be hiring many of your people to rebuild Yuzu no Kuni. Once this is done those people will be moving there and become the first of many new citizens. I think it's time that I have the capital of my empire rebuilt. If my calculations are correct this should take approximately 3 years to complete. I am placing you in charge. Now I want you to take the greatest of cautions that this is done quietly, for if I find out that this plan is discovered by one of my enemies, I will force you to eat your own limbs piece by piece before I finally kill you. Now if anything unexpected arises you will send word to me and stall until I can reply back. Yes Lord Naruto. The puppet leader nodded as Naruto turned and walked out of the room with Marite behind him. As Naruto walked through the halls Yugeru and Zabuza's group joined him. What are our orders? Zabuza asked. You four will remain here and be reinstated as shinobi. You are my voice here while I am away. Mei, you are to follow Zabuza's orders as though they are my own. Yes, master. Mei nodded. So I'm in charge technically. Zabuza chuckled. While I am away yes. Naruto chuckled. Haku is to act as a messenger between us that way I am kept informed while I am away. Fine. Taking the dark guy with you? Zabuza asked, referring to the masked Yugeru. Yes. He will be with me at all times. Naruto replied as he walked away. You have your orders, now I have other matters to attend to. Zabuza only nodded as Naruto and Yugeru walked off and made their way back towards the ferry that would take them directly to Nami no Kuni. In Konoha the 4 Jonin of the Genin 12 were sitting in a tea shop discussing their charges and how to further help them grow. Sasuke has actually been working harder than ever. After seeing Yami defeat Gaara like that I think he realized how far he has to go to defeat Itachi. Kakashi noted though I think he is trying to learn to use the curse seal. What makes you say that? Asuma asked. Just a hunch. He's doing a good job of hiding it but there are moments where he seems to hesitate like he is deciding whether to use it or not. If he doesn't let it consume his flames of youth then it can't be too bad. Guy exclaimed. Jiraiya would disagree with you there. Kakashi stated calmly he thinks that Orochimaru might use it to control him. So what about Naruko? Kurenai asked. She's still training hard but she is still on probation for a few more weeks. After that stunt she pulled with Jiraiya she should be lucky she got off that lightly. Kurenai snorted. I agree. However we are working on her judgment skills now more than her physical capabilities. Kakashi nodded and Sakura is working on becoming a medical nin and she is doing a pretty good job of that. That's good. Asuma nodded. What about your team Guy and please be straight with us. Kakashi stated, cutting his proclaimed rival off from a loud and slightly embellished telling. Niji is brooding. Guy sighed he took his defeat to Hinata hard and is throwing himself into his training to try and surpass her. Lee and Tenten have done what they can to keep up with him but this is the first time I have seen him so determined. I'm not surprised. Hyanta caught all of us off guard with that win. Kurenai nodded I don't know how she did it but she managed to find her confidence and somehow surpass what we estimated her strength at. So how is she? Asuma asked. Working harder than ever and she seems to be developing her own fighting style. Her father is furious about this but he has little say in the matter. Kurenai stated personally I am happy for this change but a little worried as well. She seems to be driven by something and refuses to tell me what it is. This is the first time she has ever avoided a topic with me. She is growing up. Maybe she is hitting that rebellious phase. Asuma suggested. Maybe. Shino and Kiba are a little worried about her but they are going with it as well. Not wanting to be outdone I guess. Kurenai shrugged. My team is almost the same as ever. Kind of wish they would get that kick in the pants that yours have. Asuma chuckled. Be stricter with them. Kakashi shrugged. That wouldn't work. Asuma sighed when has being strict with Anara ever worked? A valid argument. Guy nodded. You know I think all of our teams could use a good training exercise. Kakashi stated, shocking them with the idea I mean most of our teams came out of the Chunin exams with some kind of negative experience but at the same time are using it to push themselves further. Let's test that newfound resolve and see if we can harden it into something more fitting for Konoha shinobi. But what? Asuma asked. I may be able to help. A man said as he stopped by their table, an older man with a Suna headband around his forehead. Pardon the interruption, but I couldn't help but overhear. I might have a suggestion for you. And you are? Kakashi asked with a frown. My name is Yo Asakura, an old Suna veteran that was called back into service recently. Yo smiled. I'm just here to pick up some new supplies before heading home. And your suggestion? Asuma asked. There is a place we take our teams when they are having issues as your teams are. We call it the maze. It is a labyrinth in Kawa no Kuni made of a peculiar stone that hides chakra and can cause mild hallucinations. These hallucinations will generally force them to face an uncomfortable truth about themselves that will help them become better shinobi. Yo explained. I think I've heard of this. Kakashi nodded. It's a dangerous place, said to be avoided. Only if you don't know what to expect. Those that have passed through the maze have grown to be better shinobi and become truly invaluable to their village. Yo added, it is only a suggestion, but this may help your teams. But that the man walked away and left to Jonin to discuss what he had just said. As he slipped down an alley he dropped the henge, revealing himself to be Dosu as he chuckled to himself and made his way to send the message to Naruto that the Jonin had been given the bait. A week later the 4 genin teams were packed and heading towards the infamous maze. As they moved through the countryside you could literally feel the tension among the teams. Naruto was sulking, while Sasuke seemed to be lost in thought and ignoring everything around him. Neji was shooting death glares at Hinata, who in turn only smirked at Neji whenever he glared at her. Hiba and Shino looked nervous around the two Hyugas, while Tenten seemed to trying to get Neji to calm down, while Lee was having a loud discussion with Guy about this training exercise. The only team acting somewhat normally was Team 10, who had Ino staring at Sasuke, while Choji and Shikamaru talked amiably. It took most of the day to reach the southern edge of Kawa no Kuni, and once they did they made camp on a ridge overlooking the mist-shrouded maze. The next morning the 4 Jonin stood in front of their teams at the openings into the maze and explained what was happening. We have brought all of you here to go through this. Kakashi explained as he nodded to the stones behind him. It's known as the maze and it is made of a stone that disrupts chakra inside of it. We often use this in our prisons, as you know. So we just have to go through it? Sasuke asked. That's the gist of it. Kakashi nodded. Gosh. I will complete this maze with ease or I will run 100 laps around Konoha on my hands. Lee exclaimed. Lee. Guy shouted, startling his student, if you should fail I will run 200 laps. Guy-sensei. Lee. Enough. Kurnai shouted, stopping the horrendous game jutsu before it could start. This seems like there should be more to it. Naruto noted. Troublesome. Shikamaru nodded in agreement. There is. Asuma stated, this mist is a very mild hallucinogen. It will cause you to have some delusions while inside and face some harsh truths about yourselves. This is what makes it so difficult. You are to go through the maze and make your way out. I won't lie to you that this is dangerous and you could possibly die if you fail. If you don't want to take it you can stay with the Jonin and wait for the others to finish. There was silence among the genin as they all thought about what this maze represented and finally they all moved towards the entrance. Good luck. Kakashi said as he watched them enter and he nodded for the Jonin to move to the other side of the valley and wait for the genin to emerge. It didn't take long for the group to become separated as the mist was so thick that they could barely see each other. As they slowly dispersed they were soon each on their own and each of them would soon start to face the illusions. Sasuke walked slowly, keeping a hand on the stone wall as he did and making sure to not get turned around as he walked. His slow pace allowed him to think more about the words that Yami had said to him and to think about the balance that he had suggested he gain from this dark power. As he reached the end of another passage he turned to the right and found that mist was cleared here and Yami was standing there waiting for him. Sasuke. He chuckled as he faced the teen. Yami. What are you doing here? Or is this a delusion? Sasuke asked. I'm real, but then again how would you know the difference? Yami chuckled some more, but we aren't here about me. What do you mean? We're here about you. Yami stated as he walked toward Sasuke, I understand that you have been trying to learn to harness the power of the cursed seal. Tell me, have you started to feel its limits yet? I have. Sasuke sighed as he remembered hitting the wall with the dark chakra. That's because it hasn't fully awakened yet. Yami remarked as he walked slowly around the uchiha. You see, that cursed seal is only in its first stage. There is another stage that can be achieved. How? Sasuke shouted as he turned to look at Yami, who only smirked as he met his gaze. Orochimaru's minions will come for you soon. Once they are certain that they can properly spirit you away into a Togakur and be turned into Orochimaru's next body. Next body? Sasuke exclaimed. Oh yes. Orochimaru, in his desire to learn all ninjutsu, has created a jutsu that allows him to place his soul inside another's body and then take control of it. However, the price is that he must switch bodies every 3 years in order to remain alive, and the 3-year mark is approaching. The beauty of this little scheme of his is that if he manages to get your Sharingan under his control, then he will carry it over to the next body when that 3 years are up, or so he thinks. Yami explained as he continued to circle the raven-haired teen. So what should I do? Sasuke asked. Do you still desire to kill your brother? Yami asked. More than anything. Sasuke roared. And allow them to take you. They will trigger the transformation for you, and before they get you all the way to Odo, escape. You will be free of both Odo and Konoha. Escape and I will find you. I will teach you all I can and turn you into the most powerful uchiha since Madara himself. And then I will take you to Itachi and you can slay him. Yami chuckled as he stopped in front of Sasuke again. The choice though is yours, but ask yourself, do you want to keep playing shinobi in Konoha, become a replacement for Orochimaru, or get the revenge that neither can give you? But that the mist came around the corner and covered the dark-eyed youth, and when Sasuke ran forward Yami was gone, but his words had already made their mark on him. Neji huffed angrily as he hit another dead end. He was getting more and more infuriated as he kept getting lost in this maze and knew that no matter what he tried his Byakugan wouldn't help him. Turned back to the last intersection he went the other way and as he walked he heard a voice chuckle from behind him. Turning he saw the mist had dissipated and Yami was standing there staring at him with an amused smirk. Ah, how the mighty have fallen. Yami chuckled, when I last saw you, you were all high and mighty. Believing yourself so much greater than the rest of your clan. Shut up. Neji hissed. The truth hurts, doesn't it? Hinata grew stronger than you and you hate it. Yami remarked, well I admit that if I had been given another week or two, I might have been able to get her to beat you without the little trick we pulled. What are you saying? Neji shouted, you are simply an illusion. Am I? Yami asked with a laugh, that is up to you to think. I am simply here to talk. Neji took a moment to take a deep breath and then spoke, what do you mean trick? That is the question. Yami stated, you see I didn't have enough time to groom Hinata up to the level I needed her to be at to beat you, but I couldn't have you breaking her so quickly. You see I needed her to grow in confidence and build your rage more before I approached you. You see Hinata was given a pill to be taken before the match, I told her that it would help her relax, but in truth it was meant to numb her sense of pain. This is what let her best you after you hit her with your Haki Rakujikin SHM 8 trigram 64 palms. She should have been defeated right there, but after the medicine that I gave her she could stand and continue to fight without chakra. Why? Neji roared as he tried to attack Yami, who only flipped over him. Why do any of this? I did this for many different reasons, but as I said, I needed your rage to grow in order to see if you could become useful to me in my plans. Hinata has proven her worth and in the right conditions will make an excellent tool. You are still in question. What do you plan on doing? Neji hissed as he faced him. Change the world. Yami chuckled as he kept eye contact. It has already begun, and the question is, will you help me build it or be another sacrifice to it? What do you want? I want you to continue to train and grow stronger. You have great potential and I want you to expand upon it. I want you to also make peace with Hinata, not the main house, just Hinata. She can be one of your greatest allies in gaining the branch house the dominance it so rightly deserves. She finds that seal upon your brow just as abhorrent as you and any other branch member does. When the time comes the slaves will become the masters and the new Hyuga clan will be a great asset to me as I usher in a new age. Yami grinned. You're mad. Neji stated. Only if I fail. Yami shrugged. If I succeed I am a visionary. Neji stared at Yami before he saw the mist encroaching on them again, and with a quiet laugh Yami disappeared within it as Neji contemplated what he had said to him. Hinata stopped at another intersection and glanced around, trying to figure out which way she would have to go when she heard whistling behind her and turned to see Yami standing there. You want to go left? He stated as he walked towards her. How do you know? Aren't you just an illusion? Perhaps. Does it matter? Yami asked as they walked. I suppose not. Hinata replied, I have followed your advice. I have pushed myself to become stronger and gain that fighting style we discussed. Good. It will serve you well in the trials ahead. What trials? Hinata asked. Neji will soon approach you about what occurred in the Chunin exams. About your lack of pain. Yami stated. What was that pill you gave me? You said it would relax me. Hinata remarked, it numbed my sense of pain. It did. You were not ready to beat Neji yet, but you had the makings of it. I simply gave you the edge needed to prove it. I know that if you faced him now you would win. Yami replied, that is unimportant at this time though. Neji will approach you and I want you to help him. The what? Shift the balance of power in the Hyuga clan. It is unfair that branch family has become slaves to the main. In time you will help him reverse the situation. No. I will not continue that cycle of hatred. Hinata exclaimed. I never said it would continue, did I? Yami remarked, in the end you and Neji will have to work out the details, but I recommend that you only enslave the current members of the main family and any children that they bear will be free and given to the branch family to be raised. Thus eliminating the cycle of hatred and punishing those that continued it. Hinata frowned at this and realized that while not a perfect solution, that it could have the means to end this slavery within her own family. Is that all you wanted to tell me? Hinata asked. No. A day will come when I will ask you to do something that may go against every notion of right and wrong you have. I will need you to do this. Why? Hinata asked with a frown. For world peace. Yami stated I am in the midst of creating a new and better world, but in order to do that I need talented people by my side, people that will help me bring about this new age. What I will ask of you will prove your dedication and help bring the Hyuga clan into the light of this new age. And I can't or won't do it? Hinata asked. Then you will be a sacrifice to the new world. Yami stated as he looked her in the eye. I will not lie to you, there will be sacrifices, there will be lives lost, but in the end, it will be for the greater good of a world without war, without hatred, where all will stand together and all will be equal. Hinata frowned at his words, but couldn't deny that he seemed to legitimately believe what he was saying. I hope you understand if I take all of this with a grain of salt. Hinata remarked. Hinata, I would be shocked if you had agreed right away. Yami chuckled. I want you to consider what I am saying and make this decision with all the facts. If you are to be one of my lieutenants I need you to use your head. Hinata nodded as Yami stopped walking and the mist overtook him and he disappeared before she could say anything else. With a frown Hinata continued walking and thinking about what he had said. Naruto stopped as she gazed up at the sky, wondering how long she would have to keep walking before she made it out or ran into somebody else. Lost. A voice said from her right and she turned to see Yami standing there. You. Naruto shouted as she threw a handful of kunai at him. Before any of them could touch him, Naruto appeared from a side passage and blocked them with his drawn katana. That wasn't nice, sis. Naruto chuckled as he and Yami walked towards her. We only want to talk. Okay, you guys are illusions. Naruto sighed as she glared at them. Doesn't mean that I have to like you guys. No. Yami nodded in agreement as they stared at her. Tell me, child of prophecy, how does it feel to know that you are inferior to two different people your own age? I am not. Naruto shouted. Then explain why he kicked you ass and I fought you to a standstill with while still holding back. Naruto asked with a grin. I lost to him because I was too BP and underestimated him and Jiraiya stopped us before we could finish. Excuses. Yami chuckled as he looked at the other blonde. All bark and no bite. Tell me about it. Always talking a big game but in the end you are nothing. You aren't anything more than a filthy demon. Naruto laughed as Naruto glared at him. I am not. Naruto shouted. Really? Yami asked. Even with the power of a demon on your side, you failed to stop us from besting you. Maybe one of us is the real child of prophecy and our destiny is to kill you to save the world. Makes sense. Naruto agreed. I mean, slaying a demon would definitely make us heroes. I'm not a demon. You are too. Naruto laughed. Before Naruto could do anything else, all she could hear were all the people she knew calling her a demon, and as she looked around all she could see were their faces twisted in rage, calling her a monster and a demon, saying how she should be killed. Stop it. Naruto screamed as she started to run, but the voices wouldn't leave her alone as she ran, continuing their insistent whisperings. It wasn't long before she ran out of the maze, and Kakashi was waiting for her, having heard her screams growing closer. Naruto? Kakashi exclaimed as he stopped the girl from running any further. I'm not a monster. She screamed as Kakashi stopped her from running any further and just held the girl as she started to cry, bawling her eyes out as she continued to say she wasn't a monster. Kakashi just stood there, soothing the girl as he saw the other Jonin arriving to see if she was alright. It's okay, Naruto. Kakashi said as he patted her head. You aren't a monster. We all know that. He's right. Kurenai nodded as the girl looked at them and nodded, but she still had tears falling from her eyes. Several hours later all of the genin had made it out of the maze, all of them a little shook up or lost in their own thoughts, as the Jonin let them all rest, agreeing that they would leave tomorrow. After the four teams had left, Naruto stood upon the rise as Yugura and Kin appeared behind him. You did good work, you two. Naruto nodded. Thank you. Kin smiled. Thanks. Yugura sniffed, but making a mist like that is easy enough. And those illusions were simple once I knew where they were. Kin agreed. You're all just lucky that I managed to test out those chakra seals I gave you, otherwise you would have been as powerless as those genin were. Naruto remarked. Sir, if I may ask. What was the point of this? Yugura asked. A valid question. Naruto chuckled. This was sowing the seeds of dissension amongst my enemies. Turning the Hyuga upon itself, breaking Naruto even further, convincing Sasuke to leave the village. If everything plays out like I expect, then Konoha is going to be in for a hard few years. The two simply nodded at this as they followed their master back to the base he had nearby, awaiting the next step in his master plan. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.